So hello everyone, and welcome to the Kiali community meeting. This meeting is about the community and also to see what's new in Kiali version 1.38 for the Sprint 60. Let me share the screens for you. All right. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. So that's an open agenda session. Every sprint we open the agenda in the community discussions, and it's for all the community to put your topics, your thoughts, your everything you have in mind that it concerns Kiali, and maintainers on the other community can help you. So this is the session for you, right? So we will talk about the Kiali highlights, and also some lighting demos of what's going to be in the next release. And at the end, we will open the mic for everyone to ask questions. So first of all, we are kind of discussing new things for mid and long-term Kiali, not just for the short-term task or short-term developments in Kiali, but more for new enhancements that may take different months, several months, right? So it's completely open, and there's like 5 pillars to discuss about it. Deployment models. How do you use Kiali? Istio. How many control planes do you have, and how they are deployed? How do you use the Istio, how is deployed, how do you have Prometheus, and so on. How do you troubleshoot Envoy? Because at the end, a control plane is managing a lot of envoys. Then Istio management, how Kiali can help you to better manage your service mesh. Things about scalability and general other stuff, right? So we call the community please to contribute in those topics, and we kind of shape it and try to achieve some of them. Another really important discussion open is with regards to governance. Kiali, it's been here for a while, more than 3 years, and we want to make everyone contributes to Kiali, and we want to open to everyone in a sure way and trustworthy way. So we want to hear from you and discuss what's the best way for the community to think of the governments and how to promote the involvement from community. So there's 2 discussions under the governance category in the discussions. Talking about that, there's been quite a lot of comments on that, and yeah, it's an ongoing discussion. So we hope you get involved as well. So let's talk about the Sprint 60 and some highlights. So in this sprint, it's been as you know, we have 1 project per sprint per release. This release is for the Sprint 60. We've closed 21 issues. Backlog still there's 13 issues. In review 12, but we've merged 55. There's some backporting to 1.36 version. That's why it's there's a little bit more pull request merge in here. And with regarding with the balance between fixes and improvements, here we can say that there's 12 enhancements compared to 9 bugs, and there's been 3 maintenance pull requests. So let's see what's in these enhancements and bug fixing. And with that, Jay, would you like to share the screen?
Yep, for sure. So I'm going to do 2 lightning demos in a row for the next 2 slides. And let's see if I can just get my Screen shared. Let me know if you can when you can see the screen, Javi.
Yes.
All right. So the first demo I want to do has to do with a new feature called rate selection for your graph generation, basically. So here I have actually two different demos that you can get out of the Kiali demos repo. The top mesh here is for fraud detection demo, and the bottom is our travel demo. And I did that because these two things together show a lot of different protocol traffic. So if you see HTTP is highlighted now, if I change that to TCP, because I know this is pretty small on your screen, so I just want to show the highlight. There's the TCP traffic, and then we've also got gRPC, which is the fraud detection demo. It uses all gRPC traffic. So in the past, let me turn off that find. In the past, we've always used the same, basically the same traffic to generate the Kiali graphs. We've used HTTP request traffic, gRPC request traffic, and sent bytes for TCP. And that was really pretty inflexible, and it definitely broke down in a couple of places, especially with streaming traffic for gRPC and TCP. So what we've added is a new dropdown in between your namespace selector and your graph type selector. And this is going to give you the ability to decide exactly what rates or what traffic is going to populate your graph. So by default, you get the historical things that we've always used: gRPC requests, HTTP requests, and sent bytes for TCP. The first thing you're able to do is, if you're not using a particular type of traffic, you can actually disable it completely. So if I want to, I just focus, say, on TCP, I can do that. And so I'm now only showing my TCP traffic. And my TCP traffic in this case is being generated on sent bytes only. So if I was to turn on traffic rate, I'm going to see that probably familiar byte rates, 69 bytes per second, 912 bytes per second. But the problem with sent bytes is that sometimes you only have really unidirectional traffic going on. I know that some of the Kafka users have had that situation where they don't see edges because they're actually not getting sent bytes at any generally large rate. They're only getting received bytes. And so now you can actually choose received bytes, if that makes sense for you, sent bytes, or if you want to make sure you capture absolutely everything, you can use total bytes. You can see these numbers changing over here as I did that. So you can see the total is 1.2 kilobytes per second, but my received bytes, for example, were just 309. It's quite similar for gRPC. So we had a major issue come in where someone was, in gRPC you can set up streaming connections where you really only have one request, maybe for a long time. It could be an hour. But on that one request, you could be sending traffic back and forth, message traffic back and forth. And so you've got the same situation now. If you don't want to use requests, you can change your gRPC traffic to, for instance, total messages. So now you've got bidirectional message traffic and your total showing up here. And you'll notice the unit is messages per second as opposed to requests per second. So this is, I think, a relatively major new feature for the graph, where you can decide what traffic will actually make up your graph for the particular time. Of course, nothing else changes. It's still for the same time period that you select up here and so forth. Now, the other thing I wanted to do was, and let me bring back actually the HTTP traffic. I don't need the fraud detection demo anymore, so I'll get rid of that. So here we have the travel demo that a lot of people might be familiar with, given that it's used in the tutorial for Kiali. But I wanted to show this in the next slide, another new feature, which has to do with our log view. So I'm going to go to the travels workload, and I'm going to go directly to the logs tab on that view, which you can do using the context menus in the graph. If you haven't tried that before, you just right click or secondary click, and I'll go to the logs. So if you haven't seen the logs view recently, it was updated a few releases ago to give you a unified view of your container logs. So in this case, just to review that part of things, you've got a time-ordered list where we've got our proxy logs for the proxy container in gold or amber, and we've got our app logs in white. And you can see that it's time-ordered such that the access logs and the app logs are unified. And you can turn off or turn on any particular container that you're interested in. But the new addition is here for spans. So we wanted to integrate traces. So one of the tough things when you're debugging or chasing down a problem is to figure out which spans are actually important to you, which ones are going to help you out. And we thought that by unifying trace spans also into the log view, you might, it could be helpful as you can locate potentially spans within the logs, like here. If we had located some interesting log activity, then we might realize that these are also particularly interesting traces. And let me just turn on timestamps to make sure that it's a little more clear how it's time ordered. And you can see that these spans here actually showed up exactly during the same second as, for example, these logs here. So you might be able to correlate those things together. And then if you determine that something's interesting, you can actually click here now and jump straight over to the trace view. That, and then you can go back and forth between traces and logs and metrics as you would always do. And just to mention, on the metric screens, there's also this ability to inject spans. So what we're really trying to do here in Kiali is give you a unified, correlated view of tracing, metrics, logs, etc., and then give you the detailed trace information as well. All right, that is that. Javi, I will unshare.
All right, so let me share again my screen. So, yeah. So, Jay, you want to introduce this slide?
This next thing is something brief so we've been doing a lot of work lately. It's sort of in progress, and in fact, I think next sprint we'll have a lightning demo around a more robust handling of workload entries. So basically, as more and more people are integrating VM-based workloads into their mesh using in Istio workload entries and service entries, one thing that we've done is we've improved the handling of our service entries to better be able to handle the traffic that's going basically to VM workloads that are in the mesh and fronted by service entries and workload entries. So you'll notice, I just wanted to point out this particular edge here from product page to reviews. So when we're requesting reviews, these are actually outside or in VMs, and we can now show traffic going to them and then out of them. And what you'll see coming in the next versions is much more badging and identification of the fact that, in fact, these things are VMs and so forth, with better identification in the graph. That's coming. All right.
All right. So let's jump to the next slide. Edgar, you're here?
Do we have Edgar? I guess not. Edgar was supposed to do a demo of this feature. Maybe we can do it in the next sprint, but I will give you just a teaser. This should be in this release, though. So one really nice thing is when you're debugging or trying to understand your traffic is being able to see the hosts that are actually defined for your gateways or where your route routing is in virtual services. So what you'll be able to see in 1.38 is, in fact, a new badge here. So we see that this is obviously an ingress gateway. Sometimes it's not as clear from the name, but we have this new gateway badge. But more importantly, you actually see below here a list of gateways for that ingress to help you understand what requests would get routed where. And you can see here there's also, so if you hover over the bottom of the label, you will get this expanded view. If you don't hover, you get this condensed view that just says how many hosts are defined so that you can, so that we don't use up too much real estate on the graph in particular. And then if you actually select the node in the side panel, you can also get a reflection of all the hosts as part of that detail information. So hopefully we'll have a better demo of this next time around, but sorry we don't have it today.
No problem. So you want to introduce this one?
Not too much more here to say, but we have updated the Kiali operator. This new release now based on the 4.8 Ansible operator, which is I think a relatively large jump for that operator Ansible operator version for us. The enables us to do a few things. And yeah, actually, I already mentioned the service entries with the multiple edges that had to do with the workload entries that we already showed.
All right. All right. So thank you, Jay. I think this session you got a lot of work in this session. So thank you. I think it's we have reached the end of the lightning demos, and now it's about the community for questions. For people watching us on YouTube, usually this session starts with demos, and when we arrive at this point, we stop the recording and we let the community ask questions. And here we have some maintainers and also sometimes other people from the community that are ready to attend your questions to hear you and try to help you. So thank you everyone for attending and for the demos, and we'll see you in the next meeting. Now it's time for the questions here. All right. So
do you want to stop the recording at this point?
yes.